All right. So welcome everyone. We are so happy to have you here today, literally in Razan's kitchen. As I said, my name is Piali Callahan. I'm joined by my colleague Nancy Target, and we are both instructor and research specialists at Miller Branch. And in this series of classes, our wonderful SNAP-Ed educator, Razan Sahuri, takes us virtually to her kitchen to show us some recipes with the featured ingredient for that particular class. And today's featured ingredient is, drum roll,
Da, da, da.
canned beans. But before the presentation, I would like to say just a few words about Razan. Razan Sahuri works at the University of Maryland Extension. She is Howard County's Maryland SNAP-Ed nutrition educator. Razan holds a bachelor's degree in nutrition and dietetics and a master's degree in public health. Through her work with UME, Razan partners with Howard County Public School System, Head Start Centers, and the Howard County Food Bank to deliver nutrition education to students, parents, and teachers. These collaborations also involve leveraging resources between Maryland's SNAP-Ed and local community agencies to facilitate greater access to and availability of healthy food options and influence the adoption of policy, systems, and physical environment changes relating to a healthier lifestyle. So Razan, the floor or the kitchen is all yours.
Thank you. And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today's featured ingredient is canned beans. And with that, let's start the presentation. Okay. Is this working? Why? Oops. Yep. Okay. So for today's agenda, we're going to talk quickly about the health benefits of canned beans, and then 5 different ways to use canned beans. I'm going to also demonstrate 3 recipes from the 5 different ways that I'm going to talk about, and we're going to open it up for Q&As. But with that said, if you feel that you have a question, please put it in the chat, and then while I'm cooking, they can ask me those questions, and hopefully we'll get all your questions answered. So why canned beans? And when I talk about canned beans, I don't mean just canned beans. It can be dried beans as well. And it's not just beans only, it's legumes in general. They're very full of fiber, which is very good for your digestive health. They're full of protein. They're full of vitamins such as B vitamins, minerals like iron, potassium, and magnesium, which are all very important and essential for a healthy body and well-being. So when you go to the grocery store or the food bank or the food pantry to get your beans, you find so many different options. There's beans, there's peas, there's legumes, as I mentioned. So what's the difference? So first of all, beans are a subgroup of the protein group, and recently they got a new name, which is beans, peas, and lentils. So because they all have a similar nutrient profile, they're very similar. They're all full of protein and they're interchangeable. So as you know, some of them have different tastes. It could be different textures, but in general, if you have one versus the other, you can use them interchangeably. There's the frozen option, there's canned option, and then there's dried option. Today we're talking about canned because it's very easy. So all you have to do is just open that can, wash it, and then dump it in your recipe. There's no prep work that you need to do ahead of time like with dried beans. So when we talk about beans in general, they're a great nutrient food to replace ground beef, so or ground meats in general. So let's say you're making a chili or you're making a burger, you can either substitute completely, so replace it, or you can add to it. So instead of having 100% ground beef, you can change it for, let's say, 50% ground beef and 50% beans. And usually when we substitute with ground beef, usually we use the darker colored beans like black beans, pinto beans, and things like that. And then to add to that, if we talk about chickpeas, also known as garbanzo beans or any white bean, usually they're great in recipes that require a sauce. So if you're looking for that creamy texture, you can use them to substitute instead of using creams. You can use them to add to, let's say, your soup or your curry or your sauce. So that's just in terms of color. You know, when you're using, let's say, white, like a dairy creamer, instead of that, you can use the beans. All right, so now let's dig into our 5 ways, which is, you know, why you're here. First, we're going to talk about beans work for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, and dessert. Yes, dessert. And we'll talk about this in a minute. But starting with breakfast. So beans usually, you know, you can just add them to your eggs and your omelet. That's, you know, that's it with nothing else. But also you can make a breakfast burrito. You can make tacos or sandwiches. And today you're going to get 2 recipes. One of them is the breakfast burrito, and the other is the egg and cheese tacos. They're very easy. They also work for brunch. They also work for lunch. So they're very versatile. They're filling. So, you know, you can add to a recipe that you already make, or you can also use specific recipes that highlight these. As for lunch, and these also work for dinner and not necessarily for lunch only, but I wanted to highlight them because they're on the lighter side. The first is in a wrap. You can add your beans in a wrap just like you might use a cold cuts. So instead of that, you just swap, or you can also have a recipe that features beans. And today we're going to do a veggie bean wrap together. It's really good. You should smell the chopped the chopped ingredients already. So something like you can put it in a wrap. You can also do a burger. Again, instead of, let's say, meat, you can have a bean burger. Especially right now, the weather is getting better. We might grill, you know, and you can always, you know, add it to your favorite recipe. You can omit the meat and still do all the toppings and everything you enjoy, and it would taste really good. Something else is you can add it to a soup. So you can just add it as is, or if you like, you can blend it, and then it will add that creamy, thick. If you enjoy the thicker, you know, flavors. I know right now we're not into soups, maybe because the weather is getting better, but those are some of the ways you can use it for lunch. The third is dinner, and again, you can add it just to your regular dishes. So for example, you can add it to a pasta dish, and you're going home today with a pasta recipe that has beans. Or you can have it as the star ingredient, like for example, the enchilada casserole that you see in the middle. And that's also a recipe that you're going home with, where, you know, there's no other protein, it's the main ingredient, and it's filling, it's so easy to make as well. The other thing that we usually is, you know, when we talk about beans, we talk about chili, we talk about rice and beans. Those are, you know, things that are, I'm going to say, very classical bean dishes, but you know, you can also, as mentioned, add other things to your regular dinners. So right now, today, we're going to also try a different mix of its greens and beans together. And you can have that as a side dish. You can have that as an appetizer. You can make it with rice. And I'll show it to you, and I hope you can try it. The third is as a snack. And usually when I say snack, I also feel that it works as an appetizer as well. So the first is hummus, just like a dip, not hummus, like you know, a bean dip. One of the very famous bean dips is hummus. Hummus actually is an Arabic word for chickpeas. So it's just chickpeas. So you can take any of the beans and turn them into a paste that you can enjoy with bread, with vegetables. And today we're going to do a white bean dip. That's very easy to make. It can work as an appetizer, as I said before, or, you know, as a snack. Something else, you can add it to your salsa. Again, so easy. The salsa, you can have it again with next to, let's say, another piece of protein, let's say with chicken or, you know, in the summer when you're grilling, it's so easy to have that, let's say with dinner, or you can have it with chips, with vegetables. And then the third thing is, if you're into crunchy taste, you can, or crunchy texture, excuse me, you can dry them in a way where they become crunchy. So just like chips. And you're also getting a recipe for crunchy chickpeas. So you can dry the chickpeas and add some crunch to them and just have them one by one. And then finally, and I'm sure a lot of you you've seen this surfing around the web, which is adding beans to your dessert. So usually when you're making something that is chocolate based, it's very easy to add any kind of beans that you have, especially, you know, pinto beans, black beans, because you have the cocoa and it will not alter the color of the dessert. Sometimes it might alter the density. It might be a little bit denser, but flavor wise, if you have a lot of cocoa, you know, most likely, if the recipe is the right recipe, people cannot tell. But also, if you also want to do something like cookies or a blondie on the other side, you can still do that, but you have to just be mindful of, you know, not using a dark kind of beans and going with, you know, like chickpeas or white beans, and you can also sneak those in.
As Razan, we have someone, Nancy, who sneaks beans and cookies as a fat substitute, but we can't tell her kids.
Sorry?
But we can't tell her kids.
So you know what? You maybe they can try it first, and then after they like it, you can tell them. So the great thing about sneaking things in, you can add more of that in their diet, but we also need them to know, because we want that behavioral change as well, not just them, you know, having more beans without them and them thinking they're having cookies all the time or brownies. So maybe after they have it, they like it, you can tell them, or they can make it with you. This way they can see that, you know, beans are not the bad guy here. With that, let's start. I'm going to stop sharing, and then we can start with the food prep part of it. Okay, let me see. And I'm going to turn my camera on. Okay, can you see that? And if you can spotlight it, please. Perfect, yes. So now welcome to my kitchen for real. So I'm going to start with the veggie bean wrap, because the onions need some time, and the onions and the bell peppers, they need some time to get heated. So I'll start with that. All right. So for the first recipe, which is the veggie bean wrap, let me put the ingredients in front of me so I don't forget. We have, so the recipe that you're receiving is for 6. What I did was I just divided by half. So you need 1 bell pepper, and I'm just waiting for the skillet to heat a little bit. Oops. And you need half an onion chopped, and then half a can of beans. And this is a complete can of beans, so we're just going to use half of this. All right. I'm going to put a little bit of oil. Sorry. So it's start, you don't need to use the oil, but you can just to start things up. Okay. You put your bell peppers, give them a little shake, and then, oops, sorry. And we're going to leave them for a minute until, you know, they need 5 minutes. So let's leave them and move on to the next recipe. I should have started this earlier, but it's okay. It happens. So let's park the veggie bean recipe for now and move to our dip. So the spicy white bean dip. It's called spicy, you know, you can add spice to it, but it doesn't have to. If you don't like spices, you don't need to. So this recipe, everything is going to go in a blender. All right, so I'm going to put the blender right here. Okay, for that recipe, you need 1 can of cannellini beans. They're the white beans. But if you don't have that, no problem. You can use any beans you have at home. Just like hummus. So you can use any dip. All right, and then you're going to use 1/4 cup of water. You might need to add more. 2 cloves of garlic. These are 4, but I'm using it for half of this for this recipe, half for the other recipe. And then 1 tablespoon of, it says vegetable oil. I have olive oil at home, so that's what I'm using. And then 1/4 spoon salt. And then 1/2 spoon pepper. And then if you like it spicy, you can add the cayenne. That's where the kick comes in from, sorry. So that's the pinch of cayenne. I like it spicy, so I'm going to add. And let's give this.
And Razan, do you like to rinse the canned beans before you use them in the recipes?
Sorry?
Do you like to rinse the canned beans before you use them in the
Absolutely.
recipes?
I'm so glad you said this because it's all, when you use beans, you should, canned beans, you should rinse them. Thank you so much. I should have mentioned that. So I'm just going to go and use the blender for a minute. Is there any questions so far?
I know we want to thank Tanisha for bringing up rinsing the canned beans. She's the one who did it. We did hear from some people that they used them in taco salad, white bean chili.
Yeah.
We have a pescatarian with us today, and she uses canned beans for fiber protein and added flavor often.
So that was it. Let me plate it for you right now. All right. So if you like it more creamy, you can leave it some more. I don't know if you can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on a tray. Let's do that. We can garnish it. And then we can have, you can have whatever you like. But that's our first dish, which is the white bean dip. And it's a little bit spicy from the cayenne. All right, going back to our veggie bean wrap. While this is still cooking, so let's go back and I'll repeat what I did again. This is 1 bell pepper, 1/2 an onion, and 1/2 a can of black beans, or any beans that you like, rinsed. We're just letting them wilt. Meanwhile, in a bowl, all right, you will add 1 mango. And this is fresh, but if you have frozen, that also works. I personally prefer the frozen ones because they look much neater. Like this one was a little bit messy. And then 1 lemon and 1/2 of an avocado. So I just put the lemon in so the avocado does not, get darker. All right. And cilantro, Piali's favorite. This is 1/4 cup of cilantro. You just mix it, and we're going to use half of this inside the wrap and then the other half on top of the wrap. This makes, I see a yum. The smell is so good and so fresh as well. And this is enough for 2 wraps. So what we're going to do at this point is you bring your wrap over here. Let's just pretend that this is done. It still needs a couple of minutes, to be honest. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to plate it so we can start with the next recipe. So you put the hot ingredients or the warm ingredients over here. Okay. And then you put this on top. For some reason, this makes me feel like I'm on vacation. And you just, so you can have the others on the side, or you can just, add a little bit more. You're done. That's the second dish, which is the veggie bean wrap. All right. Our third recipe, which is the dinner, oops, sorry. I was going to burn myself, which is the greens and beans. Can everyone hear me? It looks like some people are having some technical difficulties. So for the green beans, we're going to start with 1 tablespoon of oil. Okay. All right. Do we have any questions?
We don't have any questions coming in. It looks like most people can hear, so we don't know what's going on. We do have someone who uses, Kathy uses beans and several kinds of chili. She adds them to tacos and enchiladas and chickpea pita pockets. I hope everybody is getting as hungry as I am after watching all this delicious food.
So for this recipe, we're going to start with half an onion chopped. And again, the recipe that you're receiving is double this. So I just have to, just to demonstrate. So this is half an onion at this point. So the recipe, your recipe will say 1 onion. So you mix the onions with 1 clove of garlic. And we're going to wait a couple of minutes just for this to, start cooking. And then for that, after this is done, sorry. Oh, you know what? There's one thing I forgot to mention. I'm so sorry. So for our dip, you can also add, if you like, you can add your parsley. So you can mix the parsley in, or you can add it later on. So for this recipe, there's also parsley. So after you're done with your onions, after they wilt, you're going to add your beans, and I'm using white beans. It's a can of white beans. And the nice thing with canned beans, they're already cooked. It smells so good. So you add the beans. And we're going to add the parsley. It's 1 big spoon of parsley. And the parsley and cilantro, they look very similar. When they're next to each other, they're sometimes confusing. So after this cooks for a while, you're going to add 3 cups of greens. So I chose spinach, but you can use anything you have. You can use collards, you can use kale. Do you have any other options of greens to add to this? So these are 3 cups. The original recipe asks for 6.
We have a recommendation for Swiss chard.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Pam. And then you can season this with a little bit of salt towards the end. And some pepper. And this needs just a little bit longer. Any questions?
We don't see any yet. I think people's mouths are just watering with these delicious things.
I wish you can smell the garlic with the onions. But honestly, in all truth, you know, beans are very versatile. They're very easy, especially canned beans. Of course, dried beans are cheaper, you know, because you're getting more out of the bag, but you need to prep them. You're also going to receive a flyer talking about dried beans and how to prep them, how to soak them, because there's 2 different ways to soak beans. But canned beans are also a great option. As I mentioned before, they're full of, you know, protein and fiber, and also they are economical, which is great. And if you're trying to introduce meatless Mondays, you know, into your maybe weekly rotations, that's something to consider. All right, so I think this is done. And you see, it didn't take much time.
Hey, Razan, there's a question. Do you cook greens until they're completely wilted?
So this is personal preference. The recipe asks for when it's really wilted. I like them almost wilted, as you can see here. So it's your choice. You can pick and choose what you like. And it doesn't, even if, you know, you're waiting for them to wilt, they won't take a long time.
And Razan, I've attached the handouts too into the chat for people to see. And also we have a question about whether using low sodium beans changes the flavor or taste, or how do you feel about making that switch?
All right, so actually using low sodium would be the recommendation. If you have the option to choose between the regular and the low sodium, always go with the low sodium. If you don't, it's not a big problem because you will drain it, wash it. So, but just make sure to wash it. So I'm so glad you mentioned that. So here you go. This is so we have our greens and beans over here, and then the wrap and the dip. So yes, if you have the option, always do low sodium, or if you're doing other cans like fruits, always do the, you know, the ones with no sugar. If you don't have that option, then, you know, it is what it is. You wash it, and hopefully it'll be okay. Let me stop my camera and see if you have any other questions.
So for questions, you can type them in the chat, Q&A, or if you want to raise your hand, we can unmute you.
Or if you have any experience with beans that you don't, why don't you use beans as much as you would love to? Maybe is it because, you feel that you don't have a lot of options, or the flavor, or so maybe we can all, brainstorm ways you can introduce more beans into your diet.
And we also want to share too that on our next topic on May 11th is rice, and on June 8th it is peanut butter, and they are on the second Tuesday of every month at 2 p.m. So coming up is rice and peanut butter. But let's see if we have any more questions on beans, and what you like or don't like about them.
And I just put up the link for if you want to sign up for rice for next month, May 11, as you're thinking of beans.
And in the handouts, you will receive my email. So if you try the recipes and you'd love to share those, please, please, please email me. Let me know, which recipes you tried. I think you're going home today with a lot of recipes. This is, I think, the longest list I've compiled for this series, because when I was looking for recipes, I found a lot that I felt are interesting. So I thought, I'll put them all. So if you try any of them and you like them, or you don't like them, or you change something in them, please feel free to reach out and let me know. I'd like to know.
And I'm going to go ahead and put the link to all the recipes again in the chat, and they're always on our calendar page where you found this class. They're attached there. They stay there, but I'm going to put it again in for you. She's got a breakfast burrito, egg and cheese tacos, Tex-Mex tofu scramble, a veggie bean wrap, black bean burgers, vegetable barley soup, pasta with green beans and chicken, an enchilada casserole, greens and beans, crunchy roasted chickpeas, spicy white bean dip, my plate salsa, and black bean brownies. So those all sound wonderful, and all the recipes are included.
Mm-hmm.
We have somebody who likes their kids love to make a chicken and green chili.
Oh, that sounds good.
Enchilada sauce soup with white northern beans.
Okay.
What's your recommendation for protein daily, and can you get enough by just eating beans? That's a great question for all the people that are not meat eaters.
That's an excellent question. So yes, you can get your daily, the recommended daily allowance of protein from just having beans, or let's say vegetable source protein. So it doesn't have to be from meat, or meat and chicken, things like that. Again, the amounts of protein depends on your age, how whether you're female or male. So there's a lot of different factors that contribute to the amount of protein needed. But once you know that, and usually, your doctor can help you with that, or your dietitian, you can definitely get your fix of protein just from beans. You can also, if you're a vegetarian, or if you feel that, usually when we think of beans, we think of black beans only. But as I mentioned before, there's white beans, there's chickpeas. So you can also alternate and use different kinds of beans. Also lentils, peas, like chickpeas, although garbanzo beans, they work both ways. But dried beans, like soybeans. So all of these are considered from the beans group or subgroup. So yes, absolutely, you can have your fix just from vegetable source beans. I hope I answered your question. Any other questions?
Looks like you've answered all the questions. Oh, there's somebody saying, are the previous classes recipes available to watch on the HCPL website? If so, where? It's actually on our YouTube, HCLS YouTube website. 3 of them are already up and more are coming. A couple more are coming pretty soon. So let me see if I can.
And then we have someone that had their hands, oh, I think, all right. I thought I saw a hand, but it looks like it's gone now.
Yeah, so we'll take questions. Those are going to be posted up. Piali, can you put the link to our YouTube channel in the chat?
All right, let's see.
And then also the recipes are always attached on our calendar events page. So you can go ahead and go to our calendar page. If you just use the keyword SNAP, S-N-A-P, it'll come up. And if you, the calendar may look blank. If you go in reverse to previous months, you'll see that second Tuesday pop up in each month. And when you click on that, the recipes that Razan shared with us are always attached on the right-hand side. You'll see them on there. We'll also include them in the follow-up email. So we want to thank everybody for coming out today and for enjoying cooking with Razan. Piali's gone ahead and put up our YouTube link channel in there. We'll post the classes. We're hoping to get them all in one folder or in a series so that you can find them easily. We always enjoy being in her kitchen with her. I hope, and we always leave hungry.
A good opportunity to go try some of these recipes.
Absolutely. So that is a ringing endorsement that everybody wants to go now and eat. So we want to thank Razan on behalf of the Howard County Library System. We're going to go ahead and turn off the recording now. And if you will stick around for another minute or two, if you have any questions. But thank you so much for coming. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, thank you so